my heart has been absolutely just so heavy. Faith Home came, sang at our church Sunday night. Those people there were real. They sang with all their heart. They praised the Lord. They were in that choir. And when you hit rock bottom sometimes and you're addicted, there's no way out, you lose your family, um, and then you find the Lord, it's like you really, really, really have a reason to worship. And they were real. And that really touched me. So I started thinking, there's so many people hurting. You could just see they just cried out to God. Um, there was a lady. I don't know if she's on here tonight, but I was live yesterday, and she said that her son was addicted to drugs. He was clean for 8 months, I think. This past weekend, he got some bad drugs, killed him. And she said this coming Friday, his baby's going to be born. How? I mean, my heart is so heavy. A guy messaged me before I went on here and said he's lost two good friends. We had a police officer today. I think he used to be a police officer. He died. There's a guy from our church was killed in a car wreck. JoJo just told us on here somebody was killed in a car wreck, 17-year-old. There is just so much hurt. How do we, and I was thinking what to talk about. How do we keep going when there's so much hurt? So many people. How do we help? How do we keep ourselves from sinking down into a black hole and not coming back? The Lord told me this. Your mind. It's your mind. Y'all know I've had a lesson on this before called no stinking thinking. When you get that stinking thinking stuff, how do we process it all? When you get that that thought in your mind, that stinking thinking, when you start questioning, God, why did this happen? God, why did I go through this? Why is my family going through this? Why am I all alone? Why am I lonely? This is what we have to do. We have to get our mind right. We have to say, what I know about God is that He's good. Is this thing I'm going through good? No. But God is good all the time. So, I got out my book, one of my favorites. It's called Get Out of Your Head by Jenny Allen. I know this is probably backwards to y'all, but this book, if you have any kind of trouble with your mind, this book is great. So, there's a chapter in it called Dangerous Thinking. So I started reading that. And here's what I got. Our minds are one of the places where our battles are fought. Most of our problems, some of them that will never even take place because we worry about stuff that hasn't even happened yet, everything happens in our mind. Our minds are one of the places most of our battles are fought. Romans 12, verse 2. Let me read that to you. Romans 12, verse 2. I hadn't even got my Bible out yet. All right, Romans 12. Y'all know I always get it out upside down. Let me fix it. Romans 12, verse 2. And it reads, don't copy the behavior of this world. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world. But let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Did it say we have to fix ourselves? It said, let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. So, how we change? We let God transform us into a new person by changing the way we think. That is our verse today that we're going to ponder on. Have you ever noticed your mind and the way you think is contagious? Your attitude. Your mind is contagious. What I mean by that, if you've got COVID and you're around somebody, it's contagious. They're going to catch it. If I come on here and I start talking to you and I'm like, let me tell you about my Jesus. He makes a way where there is no way. You're going to be like, okay, I'm ready. Come on. But if I come on here and be like, I'm so depressed. I've cried all day. It's awful. You're going to be like, woe is me. Doom, gloom, and despair. Our minds are contagious. I mean, it's funny, but it's true. If I walk into the workplace, go into my office, and I'm so happy, good morning, how are you? I slept so good, it's great, honey. If you don't feel like smiling, just smile anyway. The whole office is smiling. But you let that somebody come in and be like, hey, I sure don't want to be here today. Wish I could have slept in this morning. Just down. You know what I mean? Our minds are contagious. Our minds are contagious. Romans 12:2 was the verse. Let's do it again. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Changing the way you think. When that thought comes in your mind that says, oh my God, my kids are going astray. I don't know what I'm going to do to fix it. Boop, boop. Nope, not going to think about it. I'm going to think about how good my God is, and He will take care of my kids because He loves them way more than I do. Which is crazy to think, but it's true. But it's true. Our minds are contagious. When we are Christ-minded, when we think about Jesus, when we think how Jesus thinks, we love people, how Jesus loves people, we can influence everyone around us for good. Your best friend, your coworker, your children can have the best day if we send them out the door on their way to school, on their way to work, with a hug, with a smile, with I hope you have a great day. Don't say, did you study for that test? You better not fail it today. Talk about that at night. In the morning, you know what I'm saying? Take care of your business, do your kids, but when they walk out the door, send them out with a prayer, send them out with a smile, with a hug. Can't wait to see you when you get back home. Start their day good. Be a light to a dark world. Be a light. So many people are hurting. People are searching. And that might be you. You might be hurting. You might be searching. People are watching you. People are trying to find peace. They are searching. If us that are Christians, we know what you're searching for. Try whatever you want, but you will never be happy until it's God. Because our hearts have a little hole in them. Not really, but this is a metaphor. A picture. Our hearts have a little hole. God feels it. Nothing else does. People try sex. People try drugs. People try alcohol. People try shopping, spending money, cooking, cleaning. Some people even organize everything. Just they can't sit still and be alone because they are searching. We have to be a light to that dark world. Okay, Philippians 2, verse 5. Let's read that. Philippians 2, verse 5. And it says, you must have the same attitude that Jesus had. You must have the same attitude that Jesus had. Jesus loved people. He made time for people. Yes, when your mind takes you to a dark place, you cannot stay there because, as we get to in a minute, I'm going to tell you who wants you to stay there, and it's not God. But the devil will do everything he can to get you to that dark place. He attacks your mind first and foremost. But we have to learn to fight it. And we don't have to fight it alone because God said, Let God transform your mind by your thinking. Okay, so I want to share this story with you. If you have your Bibles, turn to Matthew 14. Okay, so Matthew 14, we're going to read 22 through 32. Matthew 13, and I want to tell you about this guy. His name's Peter. And Peter loved the Lord, but sometimes he just messed up, just like us. So Matthew 14, we're going to start in verse 22. And I'm going to read the whole thing, then I'm going to go back and explain. Okay. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from the land. They were in a boat. The disciples were in a boat. The disciples are people who followed Jesus. They were his closest friend. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from land, for a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them walking on the water. When the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. I mean, imagine. They were terrified, scared to death. They saw something coming towards them on the water. 3 o'clock in the morning, you know it's dark. It's storming, it's windy, heavy waves. They cried out in fear, "It's a ghost!" But Jesus spoke to them at once. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Take courage, for I am here." Don't be afraid. Take courage, for I am here. Then Peter called out to him, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water." So Peter's like, "I'm in the boat. Let me come to you if it's really you." "Yes, come," Jesus said. So Peter went over to the side of the boat and walked on the water toward Jesus. So Peter was walking on the water. What? Toward Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and he began to sink. "Save me, Lord," he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. "You have so little faith," Jesus said. "Why did you doubt me?" When they climbed back in the boat, the wind stopped. The disciples worshiped him, saying, "You really are the Son of God." So, the disciples were in trouble. So picture this. Peter, his only focus was Jesus when he first got out of that boat. He was walking on the dadgum water in the middle of a storm. What the heck? I mean, he got out of that boat walking on the water in the middle of the storm. Regardless of the wind, the rain, the uncertainty, the fear, the mug was walking on the water. Now, what could, in today's society, you and my lives, what could the storm represent? What could our storms be? What are we going through? Addiction, stress, marriage troubles, that could be your storm. Bills, finances, sickness, kids going astray, loneliness, you feel so alone, you don't have a job, anxiety, death, loss, depression. All these things are storms. The lady lost her son, death. The people that came and sang at our church, all battling addiction. That is the storm. If you're not going through a storm right now, you will, because life, life. You'll go through it, or you're going through it now, or you just got over one. Life is not trouble-free. Storms come, so we have to learn how to go through them and how to make it. We have to learn how to make it. How did Peter make it walking on the water? His eyes were on Jesus. Write that in your Bible. When our eyes are fixed on Jesus, we live on top, not under the waves. We on top of the water, honey, when our eyes are on Jesus. We're on top. His eyes were on Jesus, focusing on Jesus. Not worried about these bills, not worried about this anxiety, not worried about this marriage, worrying about Jesus. My focus is Jesus. My purpose is to know Jesus and to share him with others. Love like Jesus does, everything else will fall into place. When our eyes are fixed on Jesus, we live on top of, not under, the waves. Okay. Let's go to look back at verse 30. But when he saw, he started looking around. And he said, uh-oh, it's waves, it's raining, it's windy. Number 30, verse 30. When he saw how strong the wind and waves, he was terrified. He began to sink. When we shift our thoughts, what? When we shift our thoughts to look at the stuff around us, to look at our storm, to look at our troubles, we start sinking. We start sinking. We start getting these nasty thoughts. We get a dark mind. We get everything crazy in our head. When we shift our thoughts that distract us or overwhelm us to thinking about that instead of Jesus, we start sinking. We can't do it alone. It wasn't Peter's strength that kept him on the water. It was Jesus, right? Keep your eyes on Jesus or be consumed by the world. Exactly. That's it in a nutshell. That's it. Jesus or the world. You got to pick. The world will eat you alive, and I'm going to tell you why in just a minute. Well, right here in just a minute. We can't do it alone. It wasn't Peter's strength or willpower that kept him afloat. It was the object of his gaze, which was Jesus. So he took his eyes off Jesus, began to sink. We might be good Christians up here. We good. We're going to church. We miss one Sunday. Our water heater bust. We got to give out all that money. We don't have no money. We get fired from our job. We start looking at all this. We start sinking because we're not focusing on Jesus. Let me tell you who loves it when we get in our heads and our heads get crazy. Like she said on here a while ago, her mind's in a dark place. Let me tell you who loves it and who wants you to stay that way. Let's go to John 10. Keep your place in Matthew, but look at John 10:10. Let's go to John 10, verse 10. It says, the thief, talking about Satan, I'm going to say the devil right there. The devil's purpose is to steal and kill and destroy. That's all the devil wants to do to you. He wants to kill you. He wants to destroy you, steal your happiness. He wants to kill you, steal you, destroy your happiness. And he will get in here and take control if you let him. What happened in verse 30 when Peter looks at his surroundings, his circumstances? He begins to sink. What are some things that distract us, that take our focus off of God? What things can you think of that take your focus off of God? Like Peter, his was the waves, the wind, the rain. That took his focus off God right there in that minute. But like in our world today, I wrote down busyness. I mean, sometimes you're just too busy for God. I got to work. I got to watch the kids. I got to cook supper. I got to clean up. Busyness, not necessarily. Oh, social media. What? The news. Social media, yes. Family. Sometimes your family just wants you to do this. Your friends, your hobbies. And those are not bad things. They're not bad things. You should spend time with your family. It's good to have hobbies. It's good to have friends, the right kind of friends, because the bad kind of friends get you in a bad frame of mind. You always need to know, you always need to be around people who uplift you, good Christian friends, because there's always what I say when I work at the school: show me your friends, I'll show you your future. All about who you hang with, right? Because remember, our minds are contagious. We said that earlier. When we're around people who do the wrong things, who do things that Jesus would not like, we'll be more apt to do it if we're around them. Okay? Stressing about things that we need God to control. All these things. Social media is good. Look at us now. We are learning about God. We're a group of friends on here studying the Bible. It's great. But if we're on here looking at the wrong things instead of spending time with God, that's when it gets bad. But, here's 2 words for you. But God. Verse 31. Verse 30, when Peter was sinking, that's not the end, my friend. Hold on. If you feel like you're sinking right now, if you feel like life has just threw you to the curb, you've had enough, you don't even want to live some days. You have had so much bad happen. And there's so many people like this, especially right now. I was talking to my preacher today at work, and I was like, I feel this weight on me right now. I just feel like there's such a burden because people come to me and have told me so many bad things that are happening. But let me tell you, that being said, it is the best compliment. Missy, you hang on. We got help for you, girl. Hang on, sister. It is the greatest compliment ever to me to get a message in my inbox that says, "Will you pray for me?" Because that tells me, I'm gonna pray. Mama Bear, you hang on, girlfriend. Hang on. I see people out. I went to the chiropractor the other day, and the lady I was signing in or whatever. Hang on, sister. She was like, "Will you pray for my uncle? He's sick." And I came home and I told Scott, I said, "Scott, these people are coming up to me, who ain't even nothing, and saying, 'Can you pray for me?'" And it's like, it's the biggest compliment of my life. I absolutely love it. That is just the best feeling. I love it. Okay. Don't know where that came from, but let's get back. Okay, so Peter was sinking. He was drowning. Didn't even want to live. Not that he didn't want to live, but some people, I'm saying, in your life, your storm is that hard. You don't even want to face it anymore. Okay, listen. But God, verse 30, when he was sinking, that's not the end, sisters. Y'all hold on. Look at 31. Jesus immediately, not 4 weeks later, not 5 minutes later, immediately reached out and grabbed Peter, pulled that mug out of the water. What? Even when we can't hold on. I have been so broken at times, I can't even hold on. I don't even know what to pray. And when I can't, Jesus grabs me up. I don't do anything. He just grabs me up and pulls me up. I can't even reach for him. He grabs me. But, don't miss it. Immediately, okay, back to verse 30. But when he saw how strong the wind and the waves, he began to sink. He was terrified. "Save me, Lord," Peter said. So, save me, Lord, is what Peter said. You have to call out to Jesus. But when you do, immediately Jesus reached out, grabbed him up, snatched him right up. Jesus will come to you. He won't force himself on you because we're not robots, and he doesn't make us do anything. But when we see, when we're so scared, when we're so anxious, when we're lonely, and we see this world ain't got nothing to offer us, alcohol doesn't do it, because let me tell you, I tried that when I went through the horrible most horrible time of my life. I tried to drink every day to forget it. You know what? It was there in the morning. And then I had a headache on top of it. The world cannot help you. When you get to your wits' end and you cry out to Jesus, he won't. Drugs don't either. Nothing does. Work. Some people say, I just work all the time because I don't want to go home. I don't have any other thing to do. I just want to work, work, work. That don't satisfy you either. Money doesn't. How many people in Hollywood, how many rich and famous people commit suicide? It doesn't work. Jesus works every time. You call out to him, immediately he grabs you up. Anxiety, worry, scared, lonely. When you are overwhelmed by this world, this is what I want to say to you. Find another reason to live. Make Jesus your reason to live. He will give you a purpose. You won't be lonely. Now, will every day be perfect? No, you will still have troubles, but you will have one right there beside you every step of your way. Make Jesus your focus. Let Jesus consume your mind. Why? Because your thoughts dictate your beliefs. Your beliefs dictate your actions. Your actions form habits, and that becomes your life. So, if our thoughts, if we start today and we say, I'm going to think about Jesus today. I'm going to think about Jesus today. If you think you have nothing to thank him for, you're alive, you're breathing, you can find tons of things, even on your very worst day. And we start thinking about that every day, every day. When we start feeling sorry for ourselves, and yes, there are going to be days we're still going to do that, and our mind's going to feel dark. And like I said, I had this awful weight on me this morning. And it seems like I have that on Tuesdays when I want to come here. And it's like I feel this awful weight on me. I know it's the devil. I know it's the devil, so I have to stop and think, you know what? Not today. My Jesus is good. I've got to share him with people because I want them to feel it like I do. But now every day is not good. You still have bad days, but you know what? Used to. I would stay in that bad funk, is what I call it, for days or for a week, for a month maybe. But now, no, I might have a bad day. But tomorrow, sister, I'm going to get up and I'm going to start over again. And you can too. Okay. Let me read this part right here. I've got wrote down to read. 221. Okay. Used to. This is my old life. In the dark, my mind used to spiral. Afraid that there was no good place to land. Afraid that God was not real. Afraid I was not safe. Afraid I was not seen. Afraid of all the days to come. Those fears I finally learned were frauds. I was seen. I was safe. God was real. God remains real today. He chose me. He can choose you. He set me apart. I am not alone in the dark. God is with me. I am chosen. I am known. When you're in a funk for years, you got to choose different. You choose Jesus, and I tell you, you're safe. He's your God, and you're his. It's a choice. It's a choice we make in our mind. So now, if I wake up in the middle of the night scared to death, I think, you know what? Instead of doubting God, let me talk to him. Let me talk to him. Let me pray and say, God, I cannot do this on my own. I'm weak. You help me. This is a safe place. I choose to talk to God. I choose to be grateful. Even though I've got all this bad going on in my life, I'm going to choose to be grateful for all the good things. I'm 50 years old. God has kept me safe this whole time. He'll do it again. And every time something bad comes, I'm going to remember, oh, you remember when I went through that really bad stage? God was there. He snatched me up out of that water. We're going to trust and we're going to obey and we're going to believe no matter how we feel. If we feel bad, we're still going to believe. If we feel good, we're going to believe. We're going to smile. This world is hurting so bad. But we have the one that can change it. We have the one that can change it. Let's read 30 and 31 again. Here we go. Y'all ready? This is good. Okay. So Peter went over the side of the boat and walked on water looking at Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified. He began to sink. "Save me, Lord," he said. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. That's awesome. Y'all think about that.